The cold silence of high orbit cracked with an urgent hum as Commander Anika Rourke peered through the viewing deck of the UNV Dauntless. Stars blinked in the backdrop, but her gaze was fixed on the bustling orchestration of Earth's deep space relay. For decades, they'd waited for a reply, and now it flickered to life, a series of blips that pulsed out into the void. Transmission confirmed a response. Her communications officer, Lieutenant Hart, shouted from his station, excitement mingled with anxiety. "What do we have?" Rourke asked, gripping the edge of the console. The stakes had never been higher. Before Hart could respond, a violent jolt rocked the Dauntless, as an impossibly vast figure appeared in the periphery of her vision. The escort drones assigned to protect them disintegrated in an instant, shards of metal and fire disappearing into the blackness. "Target incoming!" shouted Ensign Voss, his fingers dancing over his controls. It's too late. We're not equipped to respond." "Divert all power to shields," Rourke ordered, but she already knew it was futile. The threat was beyond human capacity. Suddenly, a booming pulse reverberated through space, and a second transmission surged from the depths of the cosmos, a stark contrast to the initial response. Rourke noticed anomaly readings that spiked alarmingly across her monitoring systems. "It's not a message," Hart interrupted, wide-eyed. "It's a trigger." Before she could comprehend his words, the massive silhouette near Saturn shimmered, and the very fabric of space twisted. A wave of gravitational distortion rolled toward Earth. Rourke's blood ran cold. "Get a visual on that construct." "On it," Voss replied, his face flush with panic as screens flickered to life around them. Mythical tendrils extended from the alien structure, unfurling toward the solar system like ravenous roots seeking new ground. "Commander!" Hart shouted again, urgency replacing excitement. "We're losing power. Systems are collapsing." Rourke grasped the armrest with white knuckles, her heart racing. "Initiate evasive maneuvers!" But the ship shuddered violently, alarms blaring as her commands fell into chaos. And then she saw it, an impenetrable darkness forming just beyond the shadows of Saturn, a massive alien construct that defied all logic, as if the stars themselves had conspired to churn in sympathy for what was coming. "Brace for impact," she commanded, but the answer was already upon them. The hard light of the alien construct blinked steadily. Each pulse resonated through the ship, a silent beckoning that spelled doom and despair. Rourke's vision narrowed. They had answered the signal. Now? Now the answer was crashing down upon them like a wave, too vast and terrible to fathom. Her mind raced as she fought to focus. If this was a test, there was no room for failure. And with that thought, everything went dark. Panic swept across Earth like a wildfire. The sky flickered with electromagnetic disruptions, slashing across every continent. Citizens stared up, faces filled with dread. Somewhere in orbit, Commander Anika Rourke felt it too, a foreboding hum reverberating through the hull of the Unity Ascendant as she scrambled from the hangar bay to the command bridge. "Status report!" she barked, urgency twisting her stomach into knots. "Electromagnetic pulses are interfering with satellite communications." Her operations officer, Lieutenant Hayes, shouted, his fingers flying over the controls. "We can't establish contact with ground command or relay signals to other fleets. Divert all auxiliary power to shields. We need to protect Earth." Rourke gripped the edge of the console, her mind racing. They were part of the first unified fleet, and it was her duty to lead them through the storm that had come crashing down. But the crisis deepened. Displays brought up images of the Ark slowly growing in size, an alien construct near Saturn that had begun assembling itself into some sort of artillery formation pointed directly at Earth. "It's not a welcome," Ensign Liu interjected, his face pale. "It looks like a weapon." "What do you mean?" Rourke turned sharply toward him. "I mean, it's a test. We're being evaluated. We shouldn't have answered their call." Rourke's heart sank. "Lock-in tracking on that structure. We need to understand how to counteract it." She stepped closer to the central display, her military instincts kicking in. "Can we intercept their assembly before it's too late?" "Sir, we might not have time. The aliens, they've adapted too quickly," Hayes warned. "The ships we lost at the relay, they might have been part of this strategy." Before Rourke could respond, an alarm blared. A scanner lit up, its blips becoming erratic. "Drones?" "What's happening?" she demanded. "Sir, multiple contacts approaching. It's a swarm of drones!" Liu cried, their shapes flickering into view on the screen. "Defense systems online." She took a breath, trying to maintain control. "Prepare to return fire. We're not here to be tested like animals in a cage." The ship shuddered as the drones swarmed, their fluid movements synchronizing with the Unity Ascendant's defenses. It was a dance of survival amidst chaos, but Rourke knew better than to hesitate. "Engage. Now," she ordered. Bright beams of red and blue lanced out, slicing through the void toward the aggressors. The first volley found its mark, causing drones to explode in blinding light. But more were coming, converging like a dark storm. Suddenly, communications scrambled. "Commander, I can't maintain a lock on the incoming—" A deep rumble echoed through the bridge. Internal systems malfunctioned. Alarms rang louder. "Regain control! We need to fight back!" Rourke shouted, adrenaline flooding her veins. Just then, the view screen flickered again. The Ark's modules began pulling away from formation, stretching toward Earth, the ominous undertones whispering of some hidden intent. "Get me a visual on that Ark!" Rourke commanded, her voice a fierce, unyielding knife through the din. As they worked, a solitary drone broke free from the swarm, its energy signature shifting. Rourke's gut twisted. "What's it doing?" Liu's face went ghostly. "It's coming for us. Brace for impact." But before Rourke could react, the drone surged, and the screen went dark, leaving only dread echoing in the void. A prickling sense of futility swept through her. This wasn't merely a fight for survival anymore. It was something far worse, and as darkness enveloped them, she knew. They were being judged. The Unity Ascendant sailed through the blackness of space, its hull vibrating in response to the distant tremors of an unseen threat. Commander Anika Rourke gripped the armrests of her command chair as it tilted sharply, the ship weaving through the debris fields of Saturn's rings. "Status update!" she shouted, her voice slicing through the tension in the bridge. "Sir, we're navigating through the debris wall," Lieutenant Hayes reported, sweat glistening on his brow. "But scans indicate multiple incoming contacts. Looks like drones. Lots of them." Rourke's heart raced. The Ark was unleashing its guardians. "Weapons ready?" she asked, her gut clenching. "We're primed, Commander," Ensign Liu replied grimly, fingers dancing across his console. "Then let's give them a warm welcome," Rourke instructed, her voice steely. She could already see the swarm of alien drones, their shapes twisting with a fluidity that defied logic. They moved in the formation of a predator, precise, coordinated, and dangerously intelligent. "Open fire!" Rourke commanded. Bright beams shot out from the Unity Ascendant. The first volley struck home, taking down 2 drones in a brilliant explosion. The resulting debris momentarily illuminated the darkness, revealing more drones racing towards them. But the swarm adapted quickly, weaving and dodging, like a flock of birds evading a predator. "Damn it!" Hayes cursed, slamming a fist against his console. "They're adapting faster than we thought." "Look at their maneuvers," Lou exclaimed, eyes wide. "It's like they're mirroring our tactics." "Then we need to change ours," Rourke said, determination flooding her voice. "How's our shield strength?" "Holding steady at 70%, but it won't last long," Hayes replied, a hint of panic creeping into his tone. "Divert more power! We can't let them close in!" As the drones charged forward, their whirring engines created a cacophony. Rourke focused on the chaos unfolding outside, her thoughts racing. The reality of their plight was chilling. They were not merely fighting, they were training ground for an alien force, a test against intelligent foes that understood them. 2 o'clock! Liu shouted, pointing at the screen. A formation broke through their defenses, edging dangerously close. "Brace for impact!" Rourke ordered, her heart pounding. Bright bolts of energy shot past the bridge, striking the hull with a bone-jarring force. Alarms blared, and the ship shuddered. "Systems are faltering!" Hayes cried. "I'm trying to reroute power." "Focus!" Rourke snapped. "Engage evasive maneuvers. We need to break apart their formation." The ship banked hard, and Rourke fought against the G-forces pressing her into the seat. Come on," she murmured under her breath, willing her crew to hold their ground. Another volley of fire erupted outside, and one by one drones fell, their systems failing. Yet for every drone taken down, 2 more surged forward. The battle felt endless. Suddenly, the ship rattled with a more profound force. Sparks erupted from the console beside her, sending Hayes sprawling. "I've lost control of the aft shields," he shouted, gripping the edge of the panel. "Get them back online," Rourke ordered intensely. "We can't—" "Commander!" Lou's voice broke through. "Look! The Ark's modules are shifting again. They're moving!" They turned to see the looming structure above them. It was uncoiling, the parts of the Ark extending like limbs, interface lights glowing ominously. "Lock onto that structure," Rourke commanded. "We have to analyze their activity." The bridge erupted in shouts and beeping alarms. As Rourke's team fought their own battle against the swarm, she knew deep inside that until they understood what the Ark wanted, victory was beyond their reach. Just then, a massive drone broke from the fray, surging toward the Unity Ascendant. Its energy signature flickered ominously, radiating a calculated intensity. "Evade!" Rourke yelled, but the drone moved with terrifying speed. In an explosion of light, the view screen went dark. The bridge fell silent, every crew member frozen in shock. The ship trembled under the weight of something monumental. Then, a voice crackled through the silence, a deep, resonant tone that filled the bridge. "Judgment is at hand." Rourke stared at her crew, dread pooling in her stomach. They were not just witnesses, they were participants in the trial. "What do we do now?" Liu asked, voice trembling. Rourke clenched her fists, heart racing as the echoes of the alien voice subsided. They couldn't just fight their way out. They had to find a way to survive this judgment. "I don't know," she admitted. But deep down, she realized, this was no ordinary fight. It was a reckoning. And before she could think, another wave of drones surged forth from the Ark. Human survival instincts clamored within her to engage, but something deeper warned her to pause. As they renewed their battle, she saw it, the drone that had struck them. It hovered in stillness, its sensors scanning, waiting. A chill raced through her spine. The question loomed larger than ever. What would be the price of their answer? Light flickered eerily from the Ark's surface as Commander Anika Rourke and her boarding party descended onto a fragment of the alien structure. They moved cautiously, adrenaline coursing through their veins. The alien architecture loomed overhead, twisting and undulating, a living entity of metal and light. "Stay sharp," Rourke urged, her eyes scanning the dimly lit expanse. "We're not alone here." They ventured deeper, shadows shifting around them. Holographic images sparked to life on the walls, showcasing civilizations long past. Flickering snapshots of glory and despair. Entire worlds obliterated. Civilizations washed away like sandcastles before a tide. "Holy crap," whispered Lieutenant Morales, wide-eyed. "This looks like a record of extermination." "Look at the dates," Ensign Hall said, squinting at the glowing text. "They all responded to transmissions." Rourke felt a chill. "Just like we did." Morales nodded, swallowing hard. "We might be next." Suddenly, a distant rumble echoed through the alien hall. Rourke's heart raced. "We need to move. We can't linger here." As they turned to retrace their steps, an ominous hum filled the air. The walls shimmered with a different energy, a pulse resonating deep within the structure. Dread settled in Rourke's gut. "This place is alive." "Commander, something's happening," Hall shouted, pointing towards a glowing glyph that pulsed rhythmically. "What is it?" Rourke asked, her voice tense. "Looks like data, maybe logs of judgment, score sheets," he said, eyes wide in horror. "Score sheets," Rourke echoed. "As in evaluations." Before she could process that revelation, a bright light engulfed Hall. He shouted, hands raised in a futile attempt to shield himself. "Commander!" "No!" Rourke lunged, but it was too late. The energy enveloped Hall, pulling him away from them, the terrified look frozen on his face. "Retreat!" Rourke ordered, panic scraping her voice. She grabbed Morales, pulling him toward the exit. The walls throbbed, and shadows lengthened where Hall had been, as if the Ark had accepted him as a sample. "Commander, we can't just leave him," Morales protested. "There's nothing we can do." Rourke shot back, desperation lacing her words. "We have to warn the ship." They raced back through the alien hallways, hearts pounding. Every turn felt uncertain, the structure shifting as if alive, disorienting them. "It's changing!" Morales gasped, scrambling to keep pace. The glowing glyphs pulsed faster, brighter, as if tracking their flight. The very air crackled with tension, and the weight of judgment pressed down on them. With each step, Rourke couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, evaluated. The truth hung in the air. Their answer to the alien transmission had set off a chain reaction, and they were now subjects in a game they didn't even understand. "Almost there," Rourke shouted, pushing through the exit. The moment they stepped back into the cold void of space, breath escaped her in a shuddering gasp. The Unity Ascendant awaited them, its lights blinking in ominous patterns. But deep inside, worry clawed at Rourke's resolve. They had lost one of their own, and what had they gained? Suddenly the ship shuddered violently, as if recoiling from their plight. "Commander, the Ark is responding!" An officer on board shouted through the comms, panic lacing his tone. "What do you mean?" Rourke demanded, breath hitching. "The drones are reverting. They're converging on our position." Apprehension coiled in her stomach. The stakes had never been higher. They had just stumbled upon the horror of the Ark's intent, and it was more chilling than she and her crew had ever feared. Then a voice crackled through the comms again, deep and resonant, echoing in every corner of her mind. Sample acquired, judgment initiated. Rourke's heart lurched. They had crossed a line they could never uncross. What price would they pay for their answer? Light pulsed on the Ark's surface, each flicker like a heartbeat in the cold void of space. Commander Anika Rourke led her team deeper into the alien construct, tension coiling tight within her. Shadows danced in the corners, and the air felt heavy with an unseen intelligence. "Stay alert," Rourke murmured, her voice low. "This place isn't just a structure. It thinks." They pushed forward, their footsteps echoing through the vast halls. As they moved, flickering holographs illuminated the walls, entire civilizations captured in violent moments of glory and despair. Rourke's heart sank with each image. "This isn't just history," she whispered, horrified. "It's a record of extermination." Lieutenant Morales studied a gleaming pane of text. "Look here. Every civilization responded to a transmission, just like we did." He gestured urgently. "We might be next." The oppressive weight of that truth settled over the team. Rourke inhaled sharply. "We need to find a way out. Now." Suddenly, a resonant hum filled the chamber, sending shivers down Rourke's spine. The walls shimmered, reacting to something unseen. "Commander, it's changing!" shouted Ensign Hall, his face ashen. Rourke held up a hand to steady him. "What do you see?" "Data logs," he stammered, trembling. "Score sheets, judgment criteria." "Judgment?" Rourke echoed, her stomach knotting. "Score sheets as in evaluations of sentient life?" Before anyone could respond, a blinding light erupted from the glyphs, engulfing Hall. "Commander!" he screamed, his voice choked with fear. Rourke reached for him, desperation clawing at her heart as he was pulled away. "Retreat! Now!" Rourke shouted, yanking Morales back. They turned and sprinted through the darkened corridors, breaths shallow, panic pushing them forward. The Ark thrummed ominously, shadows stretching as if alive. "Don't leave him," Morales pleaded, his voice cracking. "There's nothing we can do." Rourke countered sharply. "We have to warn the Unity before it's too late." They raced toward the exit, but the structure seemed to pulse around them, reshaping the path. "It's alive! We're being watched!" Rourke gasped, each step bringing them closer to the reality that they were the hunted. Finally, they burst through the exit into the cold expanse of space. A wave of relief washed over Rourke as she spotted the Unity Ascendant. But it was short-lived. The ship trembled, its lights flickering in distress. "Commander!" an officer called through the comms, voice laced with fear. "The Ark is responding! Drones! Converging on us!" "What do you mean?" Rourke's pulse quickened, dread pooling in her chest. "Sample acquired. Judgment initiated." A deep voice resonated through the ship's systems, echoing inside her head, as if the Ark had spoken directly to her. Rourke's breath hitched. They had crossed an unforgivable line, and the price would be paid by her crew. A cold realization gripped her. This was not an encounter. It was a test. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," Rourke shouted. They had to escape. But what awaited them outside the Ark's grasp loomed larger than the looming judgment itself. It was no longer just survival. It was a reckoning. Light pulsed on the Ark's surface, each flicker a reminder of the presence that loomed over them, as tangible as the weight of Rourke's dread. They had to get away. "Commander, we need to move," Morales urged, his voice strained. The familiar hum of the Unity Ascendant had turned into a haunting dirge, echoing the invisible danger racing toward them. "Reboot the control systems," Rourke commanded, her heart pounding wildly. "We can't let the Ark take control of the ship." In her mind, the images of civilizations extinguished filled her thoughts. Hall's desperate screams reverberated louder with each moment, a chilling anthem to their failure. Was this what it meant to be judged? To be merely a pawn in a greater game? "Systems are failing," Ensign Hall reported, panic evident in his tone. "It won't let us go." "Then we'll have to try something else." Rourke glanced at the flickering screens. Their only weapon against the Ark's mind-bending control lay not in code, but in intuition. "Stand by for manual override." "I don't know if that will work, Commander," Hall said, fear creeping into his voice. "It has to." Rourke's resolve solidified. "We're unpredictable. It's what the Ark can't calculate." With steady hands, she moved through the controls, feeling the weight of the ship's inertia as if it were part of her own body. The pulsing light of the Ark throbbed closely behind them, a grim reminder of their shallow safety. "Drones on approach!" came the warning from the engineering deck. "They're adapting to our maneuvers!" "Evasive action!" Rourke shouted, diving into the unfamiliar control layout. "Predict their patterns. Trust your instincts." Just as the ship lurched beneath her hands, she felt the moment shift. The Ark's weight bore down, and the Unity shuddered. In that instant, she made the snap decision, rerouting power through emergency nodes, her gut guiding her every input. "Come on, stabilize," she urged, an echo of her desperation filling the small cockpit. The ship responded, the control systems whirring back to life, but time was running out. Outside, drones swarmed toward them, darting like predators sensing weakness. "I can't hold this," Hall yelled as he fought against the looming influence of the Ark. "It's too strong." "Just a little more." Rourke gritted her teeth. Coursing through her veins was the determination to save her crew, a primal instinct that blazed above the fear. Then it happened. The ship jolted as the Ark screamed with psychic energy. Sample engaged, judgment proceeding, its cold voice filled the air, resonating in their bones. "What does that mean?" Morales barked, his knuckles white against his console. "It means we won't just be tested. They are deciding our fate," Rourke said, a chill running down her spine. Heart racing, she realized they had not answered a call, but signed up for a trial of existence. An explosion rocked the Unity. Alarms blared. Warnings flashed across the displays. The ship was beginning to tumble. "Brace for impact!" she shouted as her fingers danced over the controls, trying to fight against the chaos. From the darkness behind them, shadows erupted, drones pouring from the Ark like an unholy tide. In that moment, with no escape from the lens of judgment, Rourke and her team stood at the precipice of annihilation. Commander, we have to fight back, Hall cried, desperation cutting through the clamor. There's no room for error, she yelled, panic clawing at her throat. We can't let them judge us. But deep down, Rourke understood the truth. They had already crossed a line, and the reckoning was upon them. As the drones descended, she faced the irreversible decision: fight or die. Prepare to launch countermeasures, she shouted, the fight igniting inside her. But under her breath, a whisper echoed. It wasn't just survival anymore. It was war. With dread coiling tight in her chest, she readied herself for the oncoming storm. They were already judged, and the Ark had no mercy for the unprepared. The Ark loomed closer, light pulsing like a heartbeat, and Rourke felt time slipping like sand through her fingers. Their escape was slipping away. Commander, we need to move, Morales urged, panic etched on his face. The Unity Ascendant groaned under the weight of its failing systems. Reboot the control systems, Rourke commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos. We can't let the Ark take control of the ship. Images of lost civilizations flickered in her mind. Cries of despair from the archives echoed louder than the alarms. Was this Judgment Day? Systems are failing, Ensign Hall shouted, his voice breaking. It won't let us go. Rourke's heart raced. Then we'll have to try something else. She glanced at the flickering consoles. Stand by for manual override. I don't know if that will work, Commander, Hall said, fear creeping into his voice. But Rourke silenced him with a look. It has to. She felt the pulse of the ship in her bones, the rhythm syncing with her resolve. We're unpredictable. That's our edge. With steady hands, she navigated the console, her instinct guiding her through the chaos. Light throbbed behind them, a grim reminder of their impending doom. Drones on approach, the engineering team shouted. They're adapting to our maneuvers. Evasive action, Rourke shouted, leaning into the ship. Trust your instincts. Predict their patterns. The Unity jolted, rattling her teeth. The fear tinged with adrenaline surged through her veins. Come on, she urged, her fingers dancing over the controls. Stabilize. The ship responded, shuddering back to life. But time was evaporating. Outside, alien drones darted like hungry shadows. I can't hold this, Hall yelled, his hands trembling. It's too strong. Just a little more. Rourke gritted her teeth, desperation swamping her. In that moment, everything shifted. The Ark pulsed with psychic energy. Sample engaged. Judgment proceeding, it announced, its voice devoid of emotion. What does that mean? Morales gasped, his face pale. It means they're deciding our fate. We're not just being tested. The truth settled over her like ice. An explosion rocked the ship. Alarms blared as they began to tumble into the void. Brace for impact! Rourke shouted, clinging to the controls as chaos erupted around them. Drones poured from the Ark like locusts, a merciless wave eager for destruction. With dread coiling in her chest, she locked eyes with her crew. Commander, we have to fight back, Hall cried, anguish slicing through the chaos. There's no room for error. Rourke's heart raced, fueled by the instinct to survive. We can't let them judge us. But deep down, a pit of reality gnawed at her. They were already in the crucible, judged before the fight had begun. Prepare to launch countermeasures, she shouted, steeling herself for what lay ahead. But in the quiet spaces of her mind, doubt whispered. Would they survive this trial? As the drones descended, the weight of their fates bore down on her. "Commander!" Morales yelled urgently. "We're down to 2 minutes before we're overrun." Rourke drew in a breath, her world narrowing to bleak choices. They had come too far to turn back now. With trembling resolve, she set her jaw. "Then we fight," she declared, the echo of her words hanging heavy in the air. They were already judged, but she would not let them go quietly. The glassy eyes of the Ark's drones glinted in the dim lighting. No mercy would be given. Rourke prepared to face the coming storm, knowing this fight would determine everything. Desperation surged as she rallied her crew, the drums of war resonating in her chest. In that moment, the Ark screamed its warning, and Rourke knew. The reckoning was at hand. Would they rise or fall? The answer lay just beyond their grasp. The room shuddered with dread. Rourke's heart pounded like a war drum. Light flickered, red, blue, then dark. "Lorik!" she shouted, but the AI was unresponsive, a ghost in their machine. "Get control back!" "This isn't normal. Something's overriding us," Hall cried, his face a mask of fear. The ship trembled as the Ark bore down on them, its presence suffocating. Sample engaged, judgment proceeding. The voice echoed, empty and unfeeling. "What's it doing?" Morales gasped, fingers trembling over the console. "It's not just testing us. It's making a decision." Rourke's stomach dropped. "We're in the crosshairs." She felt it then, the Ark's unyielding gaze. "Sam, can you fight it?" Hall's voice cracked with desperation. "I can try, but—" He hesitated, breath hitching. "I don't know if we have time." A jarring impact rocked the ship, ripping her focus. "Brace for impact!" Rourke shouted as alarms screamed and lights dimmed, a chorus of chaos encroaching upon them. The drones descended, sleek and deadly, like shadows seeking prey. They surged forward, hungry. "We've got less than 2 minutes!" Morales yelled, eyes darting to the oncoming swarm. "Countermeasures!" Rourke barked. "Activating weapons systems now!" "But they're adapting. They learn faster than we can fire," Hall warned, panic bubbling beneath his voice. Breath fast, Rourke bit back the doubt. "We will not be judged quietly." "Is that wise?" Morales urged, his gaze betraying a flicker of fear. "It's all we have." Rourke gritted her teeth, resolve hardening. "Mark targets!" "Targets marked." Hall's voice barely broke through the tumult. "Fire!" The retaliation sparked, but the drones twisted and dodged. Their movements were too fluid, too alive. "We can't drop our guard," Morales shouted, sweat beading on his brow. "We're fighting their test. They've already decided." Rourke swallowed hard, the truth wrapped around her heart like a vice. "Then we changed the rules." The ship creaked dangerously, alarms howling, but an idea sparked in her mind. "Hall, set up the manual override. I'll bypass the AI's lock." "All systems are—" "Do it!" Clutching the control panel, Rourke forced herself to breathe. She could feel the rhythm of the ship, a heartbeat beneath her fingertips. Something deeper than tech. Instinct. "Hold steady," Morales called. "They're coming in fast." The darkness pulsed beyond the viewport, a vast abyss, and hope frayed at the edges. If they lost the connection, lost control, it would mean judgment proceeding, the Ark's voice intoned again, cold as space. "Damn it!" Hall shouted. "What do we do?" "Will." An explosion blasted through the ship. Alarms blared deafeningly. The drone formation began their assault, systems cascading into failure. "Commander!" Morales yelled, desperation laden in his voice. "It's here for us." Rourke locked her gaze on the void. "We fight back. That's all we have left." She began her override sequence, fingers flying across the ancient console like a ritual dance. The ship rattled violently, each strike from an alien drone reverberating through her. "Don't let go!" she shouted. "We're almost there!" "They're overwhelming us!" Morales shouted, panic bleeding through. "I can't!" An error. Systems crashed around them. "Brace!" Light erupted, shields failing, and Rourke felt it all collide. "Disable the Ark!" she commanded, swallowing back her fear. But deep down, dread flourished. They were already lost. The battle wasn't just against the machines. It was against fate itself. Just as the very fabric of existence began to rip, the Ark pulsed ominously, echoes of the future thrumming through the ship. And then silence. Judgment proceeding. The voice echoed, an inescapable finality. The world spiraled. A heavy breath of inevitability hovered in the air, and as Rourke stared into the dimming lights around her, she knew the reckoning had begun. And now there would be no turning back. The Ark's cold gaze fixed on them, its relentless judgment weighing heavy. Rourke clenched her fists, heart racing, adrenaline igniting every nerve. "We're not your test subjects," she shouted, her voice cutting through despair. Explosions rocked the ship, alarms shrieked, and darkness swelled outside the viewport. "We're losing systems," Morales cried, fingers trembling over the controls. Panic nibbled at the edges of her focus. Rourke had to anchor herself, breathe through the storm. This was more than survival. This was their legacy. "Hall, override the AI," she ordered, hope battling fear. "We're going manual." "Working on it, but it's like fighting a ghost." He grimaced, sweat trickling down his brow, eyes flicking to the drones that swooped in formation like a dark ballet of death. "No, this ends here." Rourke gritted her teeth. Each drone was a shard of despair, and they would not be consumed. "We're changing the rules." The ship rattled violently as the Ark unleashed a pulse, rupturing their shields. Rourke felt the ship tremble beneath her, an extension of her will, her fears, her dreams. "Don't lose control," she shouted. The void outside swallowed hope, but she refused to surrender to the shadows. She dove into the override sequence, fingers flying, knitting together human intuition and instinct against the cold logic of the Ark. Sweat dripped, mixing with the weight of her indecision. She could feel the beat of the ship, the surge of her crew's unwavering resolve pulsing in sync with hers, a heart fighting for life. "Let me in!" Rourke screamed tangentially, reaching for the essence of the ship, for the spark of humanity swirling amidst the chaos. "Rourke, they're coming!" Morales shouted, panic rising in his voice as the alien host swooped lower, their fluid movements honed to invade. "Right targets calculated. Ready to fire." Hall's voice broke through the din. "Do it!" Her heart echoed in her chest like a war drum, And yet, deep within, a seed of uncertainty twisted. If they struck, they would become the monsters. Judgment proceeding, the chilling voice of the Ark hissed through the ship, reverberating in their bones, a reminiscence of ancient failure. Fear clawed at her throat. Every instinct screamed for retreat, while her heart anchored her forward. The whispers of what humanity could become slipped through her mind like smoke. Mercy, compassion, sacrifice. What did it all mean to be human in the face of destiny? "Now!" Rourke commanded, squeezing her eyes shut against the encroaching void. The ship shuddered as Hall let the weapons fly. Explosions lit the darkness, spears of hope tearing against the tide. But they were only moments away from obliteration. She could almost taste it, the bitter copper tang of inevitability. This wasn't merely a battle. This was a test, a reckoning, an awakening. And as despair clawed at her heart, she realized with gut-wrenching clarity, this time, perhaps they were not the ones being judged. A drone slammed into the hull, snapping her back. The Ark pulsed, and with it, tendrils of their humanity began to unravel. "Time's running out!" Morales shouted, fear cracking his voice like shattered glass. Rourke's breath hitched, but defiance surged. "We are not weak," she roared. "Let's show them what it means to fight back." In that moment of chaos, something ignited within her. They would not be erased without a voice. She would remind the Ark of humanity's essence, the unwavering spirit of choice in the face of annihilation. And in her heart, she brooded over fragile memories, fleeting whispers of what it truly meant to live. Their reckoning was just beginning, and they would rise from this, together or not at all. As darkness encroached, the world around her spun into oblivion. The Ark was testing the very core of humanity, and she was about to meet the judgment with unwavering resolve. Everything hinged on this moment. They would not fade quietly into the abyss. Not today. "Let's finish this," she hissed, determination burning brighter as silence loomed. Silence settled over the Unity Ascendant, heavy and suffocating, a stark contrast to the explosions just moments ago. Rourke blinked, trying to clear her mind from the clamor of battle still echoing like distant thunder. The cold, metallic scent of smoke mingled with the bitter tang of fear that hung heavily in the air. She stumbled from the control room, each step feeling like trudging through sand. The ship shuddered, but nothing compared to the tremors inside her, the guilt of decisions made, the lives lost. Hall was missing, his last moments filled with courage as he had fired on the Ark, and she hadn't stopped him. Images flashed in her mind, the faces of her crew, friends and warriors, splintered dreams carried away in the void. Morales leaned against the bulkhead, his face drawn in shadow, staring at the chaos outside the viewport. A vast expanse of stars twinkling vacantly, as if they bore witness to their failure. "I thought we'd win," he murmured, echoing the disbelief in Rourke's own heart. "Winning doesn't feel like this," she replied, hoarse. She pressed a hand against the cold metal, as if to find the warmth of humanity within it. Their struggle had transformed the very essence of who they were. She had dragged them into this war, into the Ark's judgment. "What are we if we've lost everything?" Morales asked, a flicker of hope fading from his eyes. The silence gnawed at them, unyielding. Rourke's heart raced. This challenge, this test, it wasn't just imposed by aliens, it came from within, a reckoning of spirit, and she felt increasingly unmoored. With every loss, who were they becoming? As they stood amongst the ruins of their temerity, it struck Rourke. Perhaps it wasn't the Ark that needed to be defeated. Perhaps it required understanding. What if we're meant to show them? She whispered, a seed of defiance taking root in her chest. What? Morales blinked, confusion wrestling with despair. To fight, yes, but also to teach. They've lost the essence of choice, the understanding that life is not merely logic. It's chaos, beauty, messiness. But they're not human, he interjected weakly. They're built to erase what doesn't fit their model. Exactly, Rourke replied, a quiet urgency blossoming. What if we could remind them? Maybe that's still worth fighting for. But doubt coiled in her gut, whispering relentless fears. Would they listen? Could the spark of compassion truly bridge the void of their rigid logic? The pain of sacrifice weighed heavily, threatening to extinguish that fragile flame of hope. Rourke, Morales began, hesitating. If you're right, how do we even begin? Look at what we've become. We remember who we are, she asserted, her breath steadying as realization soared. And we share our stories, the ones that make us, us. Let's show them what pain is, what loss is, the love we've shared, everything that ties us to this fight. Whether they understand or not, we still have to try. Silence filled the space between them, thick and palpable. It felt like a dawning light in the oppressive darkness. As they started to move, preparing for their final stand, an alert blared, an indistinct signal from the Ark. It flickered, unsettling yet familiar. They could feel it breathing, a heartbeat of uncertainty echoing in the cold void. Something's changing, Morales said, his earlier doubts replaced by indignant curiosity. Rourke's heart sang, but the caution lingered. Maybe, just maybe, the Ark is shifting. If it's a reflection of our own choices, we could send our message. We could save ourselves, save everything. The shadows still loomed, but the ghosts of the fallen whispered courage into the spaces between her thoughts. Together, they had lost much, but now, realization settled like a mantle over Rourke. This battle was not just for survival, it was a fight for identity, for legacy. She would remind them what it meant to be human. Let's send our stories, Morales, she urged, her voice firm. If we can share just one moment of humanity, maybe we'll redeem this outcome. Maybe we can change the rules. As they moved to enact a daring plan, the silence outside shifted into an echo of unspoken promises. Hope sparked where despair had once thrived. They were not merely fighting a test. They were embracing the heart of what it meant to be alive, on the precipice of their greatest choice yet. And far from the cold gaze of judgment, Rourke held on to a flicker of something that still felt like hope. She floated in the vastness above a charred earth, the sky ablaze with fire from the distant remnants of a battle lost. The silence pressed against her, squeezing out the hope she had clung to. Anika Rourke's breath hitched as she took in the once vibrant world now cloaked in shadows, cities reduced to smoldering relics, memories of what had been. But then, nestled in the stark, cold void of space, she felt it, a flicker. The Ark, once an alien instrument of judgment, lay fractured, its core disrupted by an act of defiance, an unexpected choice made in the face of annihilation. Humanity's chaotic spirit had seeped into its being, creating a fracture that pulsed with a new possibility. Commander, we're receiving a signal. Morales's voice crackled through the static, his eyes wide with incredulity. It's No, it's a transmission from the Ark. Rourke turned, sudden energy igniting within her. What does it say? Feedback loops, patterns, it's learning, it's reflecting us. Morales peered closer at his screen, fingers dancing across the interface. But with every passing second, it's also echoing back our stories. As the screens illuminated with threads of their galaxy-spanning history, images swirled, visions of laughter, of loss, of love intertwining like threads in a tapestry. Moments that defined humanity, the complexity of their hearts laid bare, each memory a testament to what it meant to be alive. Rourke felt tears welling, even amidst the remnants of impending doom. You see, she whispered, her voice trembling. They've only ever known logic and cold efficiency. But we, you and I, we are so much more. Are we just stories? Morales's brow furrowed. He hesitated, standing on the precipice of belief. Will sharing who we are be enough? It has to be. Rourke's conviction flared stronger than any weapon ever could. Their judgment was without mercy. We'll counter it with compassion. With deliberate focus, she began relaying childhood laughter, the weight of loved ones lost, and the bittersweet victories that crafted the human spirit. Real, raw, messy. She poured her soul into the transmission, navigating waves of emotional complexity, knowing the stakes. Each story was a thread woven into the fabric of the Ark itself, beckoning it to listen, to understand. Now. She turned to Morales, urgency infused with hope. Send the final broadcast. Morales's hands flew over the controls, amplifying their voices, a symphony of humanity echoing against the void. Each word surged through the Ark's remnants, seeking to touch the shadow of unattainable logic that ruled the construct. We fight not just for survival, but to remind the universe what it means to have a heart, she declared, her voice rising, to embrace the chaos of life, to love, sacrifice, and to hope. In the moments that passed, the air thickened with palpable tension. Then, from the depths of the Ark, a rumble echoed, a response, as if the very structure of the universe held its breath. And then silence fell, so heavy that it crushed her spirit beneath its weight, resonating like a star about to collapse. But then, over the stillness, a beauty emerged. A soft, shimmering glow unfurling from the Ark's core. It was close to a whisper, a hesitant pulse of light breaking through the dark. In that moment, Rourke felt it resonate deep within her, as understanding passed like electricity, compassion bridging the void between their worlds. The Ark's remnants began to reshape, fractals of light intertwining in delicate patterns. Rourke's heart raced as she watched it transform, as if it were finally comprehending the messiness of what it meant to choose, to feel. An unbound connection shone forth, an invitation, an acknowledgement, not of dominance, but of kinship. But the flicker of hope was overtaken by an unsettling revelation. This transformation was not without consequence. Even as the Ark unveiled its shimmering embrace, Rourke felt the weight of their sacrifice lay before her, a path fraught with uncertainty. Commander, Morales's voice wavered, a thrill of fear in his tone. What if we've only just begun to breach the surface? And as they stared into the luminous expanse, a single Ark drone stirred. Once inert, it flickered to life, now aiming its sensors toward the infinite stars beyond, pulsing lightly as if still listening. Perhaps the real test lies ahead, Rourke whispered, gazing into the unknown. As Earth began to shimmer in the distance, the drone turned, and there, in the heart of the cosmos, humanity felt a tide of possibility swell around them. They had caught the ear of the ancient, and perhaps, just perhaps, the stars were finally beginning to listen.